the Honorable Attorney General, the Honorable Chief Justice, Honorable SG, basically the members of the legal community. Thank you very much for bearing with me for the next 15 minutes. I must say that I will not stop until I am stopped by the chair. Because this topic is something that is very interesting, is very close to my heart, and it's something that needs to be talked about in public forum like this. And my talk is basically trying to bring out some key aspects of transfer pricing in the Fijian context. Of course, we need to understand at the outset what is the meaning of transfer pricing. What is the meaning of BEPS? BEPS. And of course, there are many other acronyms that I'll also throw out so that it gets all connected in the area of efficient and effective tax administration in Fiji. So basically, BEPS, if I can just redefine it, and of course I got very learned and respected speakers who is going to explain in more detail. The origin, of course, is the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which have developed a package of measures that are common to many countries in terms of international tax avoidance. So this initially started off with OECD, and then it got expanded into G20. That also includes some countries like Australia and Indonesia in our region. And then the UN also got part of it. So basically, these are issues that have been basically identified by the OECD, which is a big economy, but it also had some significance to a smaller country like us. And I'm going to talk to you about the specific measures around BEPS and how Fiji has complied with the specific measures. Some measures may appear to be somewhat controversial, and I think we may be aware about 2 days ago, the European Union has issued a list of non-cooperative nations that are not cooperating with the BEPS measures. And one of them is like Samoa in our region. We've got American Samoa and a few others. I'll talk to you a bit more on that, but apart from that particular action point, I'll be able to talk in more detail around measures that we have introduced as part of our Income Tax Act 2015 to safeguard certain financial payments going out of Fiji. We have also got a transfer pricing provision in the law, which I'll talk to you, and the transfer pricing regulation that also makes reference to the OECD material. So basically, we are very much connected with the international community in bringing best practices, in ensuring that it gives certainty to any investor who wants to come and invest into Fiji, because the tax rules are same. Anyway, so that is base erosion. So base erosion is about the erosion of tax base. And I think we are all lawyers here in front of me. You are all lawyers, and there may be some accountants, but I think as I speak, it's good to understand some basic accounting concepts around revenue minus expenses is equals to profit. And transfer pricing is very important in that context, because transfer pricing is basically we have like multinationals setting up affiliates in different parts of the world for various reasons. Some is doing production, some is doing marketing, some is maintaining the intellectual property right, and so on. And it has been done for commercial reasons, but of course tax is a factor that makes a difference. Countries would like to, or multinationals would like to invest in jurisdictions where there is low or no tax. So that is another angle that is to be looked at. But transfer pricing is the price which the affiliates pay to head office, because head office is looking after their legal services. They're looking after their marketing expenses. They're looking after all the research and development that is being done at the head office. So affiliate has an obligation to pay some money for that. And that is called transfer price. The issue becomes somewhat contentious for tax authorities is if when that price is non-arm's length. Because if you just look at us as individuals, say, I'm giving one example. I'm a human being. I got a head, leg, hands. Assuming these are all branches and affiliates. So hand is going to do something which my brain is going to tell him, or her, or the hand. So in that respect, the head is going to send an invoice to the hand. The head is going to send an invoice to the hand to say, yes, I have taken care of certain functions on your behalf, and therefore you have to pay me back. But I think in a more formal setting, I'm going to bring out two recent landmark examples to you that is going to clearly explain what is transfer pricing. So I will not dwell into too much into the BEPS action point because I got learned speakers who are going to speak in more detail, but for the Fijian context, BEPS basically is a package of 15 action points that needs to be done. It includes bigger issues like digital economy. How do we tax digital economy? As you know, the fundamental basis of any tax system around the world, or the most tax system, is around residency and source. So who is to be taxed and on what income? Fundamental distinction that needs to be done. So we have like websites, we have like all the transactions happening using technology. So where is the residence and where is the source? Which country should tax and which country should not tax, so that there is no double taxation. So I must say, with respect to Fiji, I think we have introduced a new Income Tax Act in 2015 that has included a number of features of BEPS action points. For example, if you look at BEPS action point number 4, it is to limit some financial flows out of the country. So basically, we have something called a thin capitalization rule. So that when there is inter-company, or not inter-company, like when there's intra-group borrowing, it is to be done in such a way that the interest that is to be paid by affiliate to the headquarters should be of arm's length, meaning that it has to be at a market rate. Because if interest is going to be paid willy-nilly, or the amount that has been decided by the headquarters, it is going to ensure that the affiliates' taxable income goes down, because that taxable income is after high interest amounts that has been paid to the head office in another country. So this is just like one example, but I think most of the action points relates to transfer pricing. And as I had mentioned, our Income Tax Act provides Section 63 provision for transfer pricing, and that is connected to a regulation, Transfer Pricing Regulation 2012, and Transfer Pricing Regulation 2012 makes reference to the OECD materials. And I must say that transfer pricing audit is very different from a normal tax audit. Transfer pricing is not only about law, it's about business, commerce. Of course, you have to understand the law, because you have to look at the holistic picture of the multinational, and what is their level of contribution to the economy, like to, say, Fiji economy, and what should be the appropriate taxes that should be received. So just to highlight, as I have already mentioned to you, transfer pricing is all about multinationals setting up affiliates in other countries to ensure certain functions are performed, and in return for that functions, there has to be some payment which is called transfer pricing. So there are two cases I want to bring to your attention, which is very much active in the internet, is on Apple setting up company in Ireland. And that company basically is receiving all the EU income. So basically all the Apple products are sold in the European Union area, and it is not being taxed in those jurisdictions because it is being sent to Ireland. And then Ireland has got two companies. One of the companies is being set up in Bermuda. If you recall, in recent times, there has been some discussions around Paradise Papers. Lots of companies have set up their offices in in Bermuda, because of two reasons. Firstly, there is no tax, and secondly, there is a strong bank secrecy laws. But somehow, the legal firm that was involved in getting all the arrangements and all the documents, somehow some documents got leaked out. And it actually also implicated the Queen through her private company setting up some about 10 million pounds of money in that location. So anyway, so this is just one example. So there's a headquarters. It got many affiliates. They are set up in different parts of the world. And different parts of the world have different tax rates, different tax rules. So the interplay of that could lead to some tax arbitrage. Meaning that just because you set up in some countries, because of different tax rules in different tax jurisdiction, the company has benefited. So ultimately, it could be that for that income, there is no tax paid anywhere. Or it could be tax being paid at a low rate. The other example, which is close to us in Australia, is a recent court judgment, I think in April 2017, it's about Chevron, one oil company that has borrowed money from its subsidiary in US. and the subsidiary in US has borrowed that money through commercial paper in US at an interest rate of around 3%, like there's a range. That money was sent to Australia, and the Australian company is paying that loan back with the interest, but the interest rate is around 9%. So what does it mean? Revenue minus expense is profit. So Australian company expenses goes up because it's paying a large amount of interest, which tax office tax office is feeling that it's non-arm's length. The matter went before the court, and then recently the judgment was released, and I think for your information, on the internet you may check the Federal Court of Australia versus this company. You'll get the judgment. But the point here is that this is another example to say what do we mean by transfer pricing. In this example, is about borrowing that is being compensated by payment of interest. Interest was appearing to be non-arm's length. In the earlier example, it was about money being siphoned off island, being disguised as management expenses. So I think it's important to make that known, because the other speakers, I'm sure, will explore a bit more. Right now, in Fijian context, what is the issue around BEPS and transfer pricing? I must say it is very prominent, and if you look at this chart, which is our total tax revenue collection in Fiji, which is approaching about $3.1 billion mark this year, and I must say at the outset that there has been significant policy reforms to see that steepness in CAF. The steepness in CAF that we are seeing since 2007 is largely driven by, firstly, domestic tax policy reforms. Tax rates are low as possible, and the base has been broadened. For example, is VAT. But I must also say there is a drive towards compliance. And when taxes were reduced, the expectation was that it's going to benefit the economy, and at the same time, it's going to create some voluntary compliance culture. So we are seeing some benefits of it. But the point in the context of today's discussion is that we are seeing international tax issues such as transfer pricing getting more prominent for Fiji. Why? Because Fijian economy is growing. We are seeing lots of financial flows into Fiji and out of Fiji. And when financial flows happen either through foreign direct investment or maybe somebody's imported something, it leads to some tax issues in terms of, for example, things are imported, we're looking at valuation issues. When we have FDI, foreign direct investment in the country, they're going to pay out some money to their headquarters as a management fee. So that means we have to see the accuracy of that payment in the context of whether it is arm's length or not. So the message here is that international tax issues such as transfer pricing is very relevant. I know you're looking at your watch, so I'll just speed up. Right, now I'm trying to throw out some data with regards to what is the total level of offshore remittance out of Fiji, and that is based on the tax data. Like, as you know, if you want to send money out of Fiji, you may go to commercial bank. Commercial bank might say, okay, you have to comply with RBF rules, and RBF will say, okay, if you go to FRCs, get a tax clearance. That means your taxes are paid up to everything is under control, and therefore, ultimately, then money can be sent out. So I'm using that data that is within the tax system. But what I have also done, I wanted to explain in context of today's discussion how much of that remittance outflow is to do with multinationals setting up their affiliates into Fiji. So multinationals, international companies, setting up their branch. You may think of some banks, for example. You may think of hotels, international brand. So the tourism sector and the banking sector, for example, we have lots of affiliates of those multinationals to Fiji. So I've sorted the data, and basically what I can conclude that about 8% of data, 8% of remittance is going out of the country. But remember, transfer pricing, the philosophy is that multinationals setting up affiliates elsewhere, and there's a risk of tax avoidance. Fiji's case, yes, of course, that is an issue, as I've already mentioned. But what is equally more important is our Fiji companies setting up their offshore branches or buying houses in Australia and New Zealand and trying to buy potato and lamb chops and whatnot at a different price. Remit into Fiji. So something might be costing $2.75 per kilo, one lamb chops in actual buying. But because of this related party arrangement, that is inflated to about $7 or $8. So what happens? It comes into Fiji because basic food items, we do not have customs duty. That's okay. So enters Fiji market. So in the tax return for the Fiji company, it shows that the cost of goods sold is very high because it was very expensive to import. One example, and I cannot name names in this forum unless I have to shame them, and for that we need proper approval process, because you know we got a name and shame legislation in recent time to ensure that those that are deliberately defrauding the system needs to be shamed. But of course it has its own process, but the point here is that I'm citing some examples. So the level of offshore remittance is 140 million for last year, but the reason I'm bringing this out is trying to connect it. Their affiliates are here. So how much of the money is going to the headquarters? That's the first point. Second point is the money that is going out to the headquarters, is it arm's length or not? That's the issue. There's no stoppage of money going out of the country. Free. There has to be capital, there's no capital like controls or restrictions. Of course, it has to be tax compliant and, right, I've got 5 minutes. So it has to be consistent with the rules. But the point here is that in the context of transfer pricing, we as tax office, we are very much interested in terms of whether the payment is of arm's length or not. If not, expenses can be increased, being disguised as a legitimate management fee payment, as you see in this example of 47 million going out. That would mean that the domestic tax base gets eroded. Money has been siphoned out of the country, being disguised as a legitimate management fee, when in actual fact it should not have been. So, right, so the question is how much tax the multinational enterprise, the names with the entities that I've mentioned, remitting money as M&E outflow, how much tax is being paid? It's around 48 to 49 million dollars. And of course, if you look at the size that is being done by these multinationals and the amount of remittance that happens being disguised as management fee and professional fee and whatnot, is about 30%. Actually, it's about between 30 to 35%. Okay, now let me finish my presentation by explaining to you our transfer pricing regime in terms of the legal framework. As I have already mentioned to you, we got Act, Income Tax Act 2015, that drives that. Transfer pricing regulation. I must say that transfer pricing regulation is currently under review. We are rewriting it. It was in 2012 when it was introduced. We got a number of drafts done. We'll consult the stakeholders. And again, the OECD matter, sorry, if you want to know transfer pricing, you have to read these 2 books. And reading, have to understand how to implement it. And so the point here is that our law is aligning itself with the best practices of OECD. This is the guideline, and these books gets updated every 2 or 3 years, so that it captures BEPS issue and other issues. So the point here is that we are aligning very much with the best practice. Of course, the challenges are that this audit is different from a normal tax audit. And we are grateful that the World Bank is supporting us with the analysis and the capacity building around transfer pricing. So anyway, the final point is that we have also ratified certain conventions. See, there's a convention called Double Tax Agreement. Investors, if you're an investor, you want to invest somewhere outside Fiji, you need that assurance that you will not be taxed twice. You will be, if you are taxed in that country, then Fiji should give you a credit. Those are the matters that are dealt with double tax agreement. But which document deals with non-double taxation? So nobody is able to tax that income. So the tax treaties can be abused, and for that reason, we have recently signed a multilateral convention. That is again BEPS action point number 415. That is to ensure that the abuse that is happening with tax treaties is stopped on certain issues. It can be very technical if I'll go in more detail, but the message here is that whilst we are supporting investment, Fiji is open to investment, there is no capital controls. At the same time, we need to ensure that tax treaties are not abused. There has to be real, genuine investment happening, for which we need to accord all the tax credit that comes with the tax office. Final slide is for law firms, all the lawyers in this room. Remember, I did present this in 2014 when I spoke from the same podium, I think the same podium, on tax paid by legal fraternity. Everybody is paying tax, so basically I'm not interested in that tax. I'm interested in the tax that is the law firms are. Yesterday we had, there are lots of business, lots of opportunities, not criticizing anyone, but the point here is that, that FRCS is very much into using electronic techniques to capture taxes or the financial transactions of of a number of sectors. You may have seen we have supermarkets, pharmaceutical companies. Now I must kind of alert you that in the phase of implementation of the electronic fiscal device, we will also include lawyers, accountants, and travel agents. But we'll work with you to ensure that there are proper record-keeping systems in place. If there are some teething problems, there needs to be some time, some discussions. But the point is that ultimately we are saying that please work with us. And if you have some past issues, you got time till I think 28 or 29 days, or maybe, sorry, I think about 15, 16 days to get this amnesty. Maybe small lawyers that has $1.5 million less sales, please come over and clear your account. Everything will be all under control. Thank you very much.